Engineering is often seen as a solitary pursuit with long nights, problem sets, and silent competition with other competitive students. But Jonas's path to becoming an engineer at Queen's flips that script. His success wasn't built in isolation, even during COVID, but through collaboration, friendships, and finding the right environment to thrive in. So follow along as we go through this journey with Jonas, as we understand what it took to navigate what degree to select, how he was selecting Queen's as his top choice, and the career that it landed him in. Jonas, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I I was in a little bit of a rush, so I had two strawberries
Two
going
strawberries.
going out the door. So, yeah, two strawberries was about as much as I was like, yeah, I got my two. Let me get out the door. So,
Yeah, that gets you some vitamin C, so you're good, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're rushing out the door. Was that for work?
yeah. That was for work. I realized when I woke up in the morning that I hadn't packed anything for lunch, so I just kind of scrambled together some of the leftovers that I had into a little bin, so or Tupperware container, and brought that along. So
So
hence
what do you
the
do for
rushing.
work? What do you do for
I
work?
Yeah, I work at a systems integrator. So essentially, we handle all of the electrical instrumentation and control for startups in Calgary. Um, yeah, so we work with people in all different engineering disciplines. We work with a bunch of civil folks, some mechanical, chemical engineering. Everybody's a part of the picture. Um, and yeah, it's a lot of CAD, it's a lot of diagrams, it's drafting up some things, doing some electrical calculations, but yeah, definitely not a job I thought existed
And so
before.
you are an engineer.
Yes, yes. I am trained. I went to school for computer engineering, but this position is listed as EI&C engineer, which is electrical instrumentation and control. So a little more electrical than just computer.
Got it. Okay, well, we'll
Mhm.
dive into that. Now let's like reverse the clock a bit. Let's go back in time. And maybe to like when you were grade 11-ish, so like 16, 17, like
Mhm.
going forward on this journey, when you were then, if we go back to like a day when you were in grade 11, did you envision that you'd be here, or is this like wildly different than what you envisioned at the time?
No, I think I had always known. I say I always knew. I don't know when I had the realization that engineering was definitely the thing that I wanted to do. Growing up, I had a bunch of science things. As a kid growing up in the early 2000s, like we had snap circuits coming out, and those things were the coolest. So I had, some snap circuits that had like sound modules and light modules and stuff like that. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know that that was like engineering related in some way. But I'd always been interested in science and been interested in working with my hands. So I think in grade 11, a big moment was in my computer like science class. The teacher for that class, Mr. Watson, he just had a very open-ended kind of final course project, and he let me play around with this thing called a Raspberry Pi, and I had
Mm.
never played around with something like that before, and it just blew my mind of like you can do programming and hardware on the same device and like have that work together. It was super cool to like even just wire up a button, press it, and see input on the computer. That was a like wow, this is really cool. And then looking into engineering and computer engineering and all of that, I'm like, okay, this seems like the thing that I want to do.
So that was your where you were in like kind of grade 11, grade 12, is that right?
Yeah, in grade 11, and I I knew. I think there's a little bit of a debate whether or not I wanted to go into computer science or computer engineering. But I don't think it lasted very long. I think it was like I took did a little bit of research into it, and growing up on my time too, like I kind of came along with the whole like Marvel's Infinity Saga. So like seeing Iron Man and just kind of being, into that cool engineering stuff, I'm like, okay, like engineers in my mind are really cool, especially the ones who work with computers. So that was something that I was starting to get really excited for in grade 11, although I didn't really know much about beyond what I had actually just tackled and seen in movies.
Of course not. I mean, you're in grade 11, but now, like
Yeah.
now looking back, what was the difference in terms, like what was it like specifically about what computer engineers do versus what computer scientists do that had you want to go more towards the engineering side? Like, how does that relate to the Marvel, the Iron Man side of things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with computer science versus that, I think like because we had worked with coding a little bit, and I think my view back then was like computer science and that like you can go really into coding, or you can kind of dabble in both hardware and software. Um, and I knew that going down the path of computer science kind of eliminates a lot of that hardware side. Obviously, people who go into that field, like you can still work and program, physical things. But when it comes to engineering and you're actually like going in and designing some of those systems, that just was something that drew me a lot more. Being able to work with my hands and to get dirty and not just have to do everything on the computer. I think was a cool thing. It was that interaction and that um, kind of carried forward into university. Although I wouldn't know it at the time.
Yeah, no, I mean it's always, as like Steve Jobs says, it's easy to connect the dots looking back, but like looking forward, you would
Yeah.
never know at the time. But that's our job here, is we're connecting the dots looking backwards, right? So that we can share with the next generation of student. And so you eventually took that next step. Obviously, to be an engineer, you got to go do your undergrad. So, what school did you go to, and were you considering other schools?
Yeah. So I started touring for schools. I guess it would have been kind of the later half of grade 11. Because, well, grade 12, that was COVID year. So all
Right.
the
Yeah.
tours kind of shut down. So I was lucky enough to do my tours um, early then. So I had gone to a couple schools, taken a look at and research. But honestly, from growing up, my dad is a Queens graduate,
Mm.
and he always kind of like would tell stories of Queens and kind of put this like idea into my head like, oh, you're gonna go to Queens, and I'm like, okay. I just went along with it because obviously I didn't know about universities at that time. But going to these tours and seeing these different universities, uh, we went to the Queen's open house that would have been the March break of 2019, I guess.
Hmm. That makes
And
sense.
that, uh, like, we did just some basic tours around campus. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, Queens is right by the water. You have just all of these super old looking buildings. And we went to a presentation, which was, I think, called The Day in the Life of an Engineer. And that presentation, I think, solidified that Queens was my number one. It was just a question, like people were asking all in the audience. I remember my dad asked a question that was really good. I forget exactly what it was, but I think the whole what I took out of it is how much they reinforced that Queens was like a community of engineers and all of these people working and collaborating together. And that in my head I was like, that is what I want. That is where I want to go. I don't want to butt heads with my peers. I'm hearing these stories of people like not sharing, or not sharing help, or like not giving answers, or like working on things together because you're competing to get into the degree for the next year. But Queens, if you pass your courses, then you get to choose the discipline that you want. So that was a big thing for me because I knew that I wanted to go into computer, and I knew that I didn't want to like necessarily uh, fight my peers. Obviously, it's a fight to get into the university in the first place, but I wanted to just be that, and then kind of chill out and like be able
Yeah.
to hang out with friends and then collaborate and work together.
Did you consider other schools seriously, or was Queens kind of always number one?
Queens was definitely always number one, but I didn't shut out other schools. I also applied to U Ottawa and McMaster, and both of those options I was pretty excited for too. I mean, just the prospect of going to university is really exciting as a high schooler, um, and I would have considered them had I gotten really good like scholarships to go to these universities. But in my mind, it was like if I get an acceptance to all the schools, I'm going with Queens.
Love it. And do you remember your grade like 11, 12 marks, like what your GPA was when applying to Queens?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure my grade 11 marks. I think I was floating around like a 92-ish in grade 11, and then um, grade 12 was weird because of COVID, and they
Mhm.
shut all the marks down. So everyone's average, and I was talking with like everybody at Queens when we got there, were like all of our averages were so inflated. People are
Right.
hitting like 97s easily. And they're like, that's not me. Like we took one test and they froze our marks. So I think my my average going in was like it was like a 96 or something like
Wow.
that. Yeah, because all of my courses that would count towards that admission average were in the second semester.
Right,
So
right,
I
right.
was going off of one course in the first semester, which I did pretty good on. I think that was like mixed
Clearly.
functions or something, and then everything else, which we had like one test on. So um,
Yeah.
it was a little bit different for that, but I yeah, was honestly like in grade 11, that was when in my mind I was like, okay, this is like I got to get good grades. Like if I want early admission into a program, which is just nice for ease of mind, I guess, not having to wait as long, that I need to get really good grades here, and then also like just to set myself up for the next year and see that um, you know that I'm a strong student, not just slacking off and then kind of bringing it together in the last year or so.
And then you mentioned scholarships, like, and Queens, they did a little something to entice you, didn't they?
They did. They did. I applied to the Chancellor Scholarship, which was I was lucky enough to get sponsored by Queens. That my high school is kind of I guess medium sized. Like it was out in Curtis, Ontario, and it's not a huge city, but just a really big school because we only have like two. So there were a couple of the people that applied for the chancellors, but I was lucky enough to go ahead and get it. Um, and yeah, after getting that sponsorship from the school, I'm like, okay, like I knew the other people that I got the sponsorship against. I'm like, okay, like I gotta win this thing, and or else I'll feel like I robbed them of a chance. It's like I got to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I think it was January of that year, like end of January, early February, where I got my acceptance letter in an email, and I'm like, whoa, no way. And then I keep reading, and then it also says that I like won all this money for the Chancellor Scholarship, and that was like, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is insane, and like, um, yeah, I just remember being so excited, and like I'm telling my parents, and they're freaking out. I'm like, wow, this is like just transformative, and I didn't know how much really it would impact my life now until I'm like, wait a minute, like taking a look at my student loans as a pair, as opposed to like what it would be. I'm like, man, I don't know how I would really get by and like be where I am now, and being able to just go out and like afford life as much as some people do, if I didn't have, as much support with scholarships and stuff like that.
Wow. Well, I mean, and congrats again on that. I mean, that's just amazing. And so, like, this is a big honor, right? Like, to win the Chancellor, it's not, they don't just hand them out. So, what sort of things did you do? So, you're sponsored by your school, but you also had some amazing extracurriculars, and wrote about them well. What were some of the things that you had as part of your extracurriculars, and like what did you have to go through to actually win that award?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in grade 11, I joined the leadership class. So our school is different in we didn't have a leadership committee. It was a like a class that you would take and you would get a credit for. And grade 11, you would take it as sort of a junior, and then there were a couple people, kind of our student government, I guess, that would be selected and then be able to take the grade 12 course. So after taking that course in grade 11, I'm like, wow, leadership, this is so fun. We get to plan Terry Fox. We get to plan our Halloween and Christmas events. Like this is awesome. This is a great class. And you're learning some like administrative things or working with the guidance counselor, principal, all stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is aside that, I didn't know that schools had classes like this. It was almost like a mini business. So I knew that I wanted to be a part of that in grade 12. And so I don't know if it was, I don't know what exactly the decision was. We're like, I'm going to run for school co-prime minister. But I ended up doing that because I figured like, I'll take a shot at leading this thing here. I had, just had some experience with camp counseling, which I guess that was a big confidence booster. Just being able to lead or have experience leading in that environment where you're, wrangling up a bunch of kids. I'm like, oh, it would be no different. A class of grade 11s, just being able to wrangle them all up. I'm like, I could do that. So yeah, I ran for co-prime minister, and yeah, my partner and I, we were able to win, which meant that we were automatically entered into the grade 12 class. So that was a big thing. That was a big step. I'm like, okay, like I have a position now where I can actually like enact some change. Um, and and I don't even know. It was honestly more of just a confidence booster, knowing that like I have this title of co-prime minister. Because thinking back, um, my other, I guess, big uh, thing that I was involved with in grade 12 was creating a peer tutoring group, and uh, just thinking back now, like I didn't have to be the co-prime minister to do that. I could have just done that at any time. But that was I think a big thing, that helped me stand out, and just was like a great initiative, that I got to work with a bunch of students and help them get volunteer hours teaching some younger students, and that was something like that I was very passionate about as well. I'd always find myself like helping other students in my class. So I'm like, wait, I could just like do that for the younger years, especially since like I think our math tutor at that point stopped their like math tutoring session. So I'm like, okay, there's like a bunch of students here, a bunch of which I know that are struggling with math and could use a tutor. So I'm like, yeah, let's go to the guidance counselor and pitch peer to peer to her. Um, and yeah, that was a big moment where I'm like, this is something that I can really talk about as well. for applications and stuff like that. And also, kind of was a great thing, and I really enjoyed doing. So I think that was one thing in grade 12 where I knew that I really wanted to stand out with applications, but I didn't want it to be doing something that wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be authentic to myself, not just start some club or something that I didn't have a passion for. So I knew that it also wouldn't come through in writing as well. So that was, I think, a big step to get there and to feel really confident writing the application for the Chancellor Scholarship was being able to lead that club and also kind of do all of these co-prime things on the side as well and being able to lead a class.
Wow. Well, what I get from you is just your enthusiasm for pretty much everything you do comes through. So, like, I can see how, you know, having that be something that you enjoy doing is, and something that's like meaningful to you, really, was something you enjoyed, but also came through on an application, not just to school, but also to a scholarship. So, um, I always love chatting with you because of all your energy. Now, going into school, was it just a straight line to engineering, or were there any bumps and detours along the way? Like, how did you go from you got the big acceptance, you got the big award, um, to where you're at today? Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, it was at first really sad just because immediately after COVID hit, I'm like, oh no, like what is going to happen? Like I'm so excited. I'm like hearing all these things about Queen's orientation, and it's like insane. Like it's a crazy thing. And I'm like, honestly, when COVID hit, I was like, because it hit before our prom as well, and
Yeah.
graduation, of course. Um, so I was like, oh man, like we're as soon as they're like, okay, it's gonna actually extend past this, 1 week of extra school off. We're like, yeah, March break is twice as long. And they were like, oh, we just lost prom. Oh, graduation is now them just coming to our door. Like, like they had like our guidance counselor and like another teacher come to our door, and hand me my diploma. I'm like, yeah, this is a nice humble graduation. um, but I think out of all of it, I was the the saddest about missing the orientation because that's kind
Right.
of like this is the ending of one chapter. I'm like, okay, like I had a couple great hangouts with my friend group. That's all I really wanted. But this is the first steps towards becoming an engineer. This is a whole new ecosystem, new people, uh, new chapter. And so I was really, really bummed out. And then learning that eventually, like, yeah, they're moving the orientation online. I'm like, okay, like I'm trying my best to stay excited for that. But then, like, when it came down to it, we would essentially be like in these, Zoom calls, drawing what we would have built had we been in person, which
Right.
just doesn't hit the same when you're in like a shared paint document and we're like, wow, like we could, we would have built these thrones with these toilets with the nurses on top and cage, but that's we just get to draw it now. That's fun. So, and I remember one time it was one of my frecs who are the orientation leaders, and we were on a call, and one of his roommates came in, and you could hear him say, "Oh man, that's what they're doing for orientation? Man, that sucks." And he just like quickly mutes himself, and all the other freaks are like, "Oh crap! Like don't make anything of it." But yeah, it was pretty bad. But then immediately, I was lucky enough to get on residence, um, and I was on well. I got residence acceptance to residence, which was like the biggest thing. I was like, okay, I want to go be in Kingston, even if none of our classes are in person. I want to meet people. Um, but I learned that I was on West Campus, which is like a good, 25-minute walk from the main campus where all of the other residences are. So I'm like, okay, so not only are we more isolated because of COVID, but I'm now extra isolated because I'm all the way over here. And that was a big fear of mine. But then getting into Queens, and immediately seeing what those people were talking about with community and making friends, and like everybody there, yeah, wanted to make friends, wanted to like hang out and stuff like that. So it was, made some immediate friends, people who I'm still friends with today. Um, and I think because of that community, my path through engineering became so much easier because it
Mhm,
wasn't something that I had to do alone.
mhm.
And being in like a very tight knit friend group, we would always help each other out. Like when that came for studying and like getting through assignments, and you know all of this work, which is really a lot to take on and learn just by yourself. And I was able to quickly learn, like, okay, if you make the right relationships in school, you can find someone who's good at what you're bad at and bad at what you're good at. So
Mhm.
then you can teach each other and have this, mutually beneficial relationship, and grow together as you kind of go past. So Queens had a general first year. None of my friends that I met in residence went into computer, so I'm like, okay, well, starting from ground one. But then I was lucky enough, once second year started, to make a fantastic uh, like study group that carried out through the rest of the time that I was at Queens. And I was lucky enough that they were also interested in that kind of in between space of hardware and software. So we would take a lot of the same classes, and that, um, I think was my biggest, that I think is what I would most attribute towards the success of my engineering degree, and being able to, um, kind of carry a decent GPA all the way through, which was also a fear because the Chancellor Scholarship has like a limit. You
Mhm.
have to maintain an 80% average or a 3.5 GPA, um, on the 4.3 scale, which is Queen's.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there was definitely pressure there, every year, but because of, yeah, having great friends and great peers in that study group, I never never wavered and never thought that engineering wasn't for me. After, yeah, making that core group.
Oh, that's amazing. And I guess I always like to kind of finish off with one last question, which is now that you've gone through this whole journey and you're just starting your career, but you're kind of on the other side of that education career journey. Do you have any advice to your younger self, like a 16, 17-year-old Jonas?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give, well, one, like, make great friends. Like, find friends in the space that you're in, because that just makes it so much more fun. Because, like, just to be able to nerd out too with like friends, and engineering was always something that, like, I knew that I wanted to become an engineer, but I also wanted to like really get to know some of this stuff. And I found it really cool, just the way that some of these things work. Like, the world of computer engineering, especially right now, is booming.
Yeah.
And like AI, ChatGPT dropped, after it was during exams of my third year, of my first semester, and that immediately, like, boom, scandal. Like, I was like hearing from friends, they're like, man, we had this 100, multiple choice question exam online, non proctored. I would just put all of the questions into ChatGPT and it'd be like A, C, D.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Okay, like, but it's crazy stuff that we're able to do because of, computer engineering and where it's going, and being able to talk with friends with that, and kind of geek out. But I think a big thing as well, to tell my younger self would be don't don't be afraid to look stupid. Like, put yourself in a situation where you are possibly like the least knowledgeable in the room, because how else are you going to expect to learn, especially with friends? Like, surrounding myself with very smart people was one of the best decisions that I could have made. Not only did it help like my work habits, but it just also helped to deepen my understanding of some of these topics that I was already interested in. So it yeah, definitely turned out having good smart friends.
So Jonas's story reminds us that what matters most isn't just the name of the school that you went to that you put on your LinkedIn. It's the community that you join. For him, Queens was more than a campus. It was a place where collaboration and friendship defined his entire journey. And that's the bigger lesson here, is that education works best when you don't go it alone. Now, if you're preparing for your own admissions journey, check us out at AdmissionPrep, because we're here to help you find not just the school, but the right school. One where you'll grow, connect, and really feel like you belong. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Journey, and we'll see you in our next show.